Hey, what's up guys, it's ToXinzZ here and I'm coming back at you with part 2 of this motion tracking tutorial. And in this part we're going to be looking more into Cinema 4D and hopefully After Effects, but probably not. Now, in the last tutorial I noticed that my mic kind of, stutters, so apologies for that. Hopefully it doesn't do it this time, but I don't know, can't do anything about it. Once again, apologies for the terrible mic. I'm using Astros. But either which way, let's get into this. Alright, so if you remember last time, we have these files that we made. These are the saves for the motion tracks that we've done, so if we have to alter them, they're just there. And these are the two Cinema 4D files that we'll get once we saved it in Buju. So now that we have these files here, let's double click them, just open them, and it'll open up Buju for you. Just give me a second while I open this up, and I'll be right back. Alright, so now that Cinema 4D is open, you'll get this little pop-up box. Just hit OK on that. So the very first thing we're going to do while we're in Cinema 4D, we're going to look at it a little bit. So this will be the indicator for your timeline, and it will indicate the, it's basically just like After Effects. You'll be able to scrub through it and see your footage. So the very first thing we're going to do, we're going to double click down here in this empty area. And that's going to create us a new material. This is just going to be a blank material. Double click on the material. We'll get this little window to pop up. Now I'm going to uncheck this box, specular. It really doesn't do anything. And keep color checked. And we're going to go into this little box right here that's labeled texture. Click on this. And you remember that folder that we have all the JPEG sequences in? Let me just go back to the desktop. It's probably where it's going to open for you. Well, that little folder where you saved all your JPEG sequences, you're going to go back into that folder. So I'm just going to go back into it real quick. Motion tracking. And JPEG. And this is for the very first one, so remember which one you opened. And I'm going to click on the first image again, hit open, hit no, and then it's going to create a texture, on the texture ball or whatever it is, and that's going to be the texture of our background. Now we're going to click on this one more time, and we're going to bring it to this tab. Go over to animation. I can't talk today, Jesus. We're going to hit calculate. What that's going to do is it's going to calculate the entire image. So now it's not just a still frame; it calculates the entire folder. Now we can just exit out of that. So next thing we're going to do, going to come up to here. Nope, that's my fault. Get rid of that. We're going to click and hold on this and bring us down a drop down menu, and we're just going to put a background in here. Then we're just going to drag this texture onto the background, and now that's our scene. And if we go through it, you'll see that it moves and yada yada yada. So now you can do multiple things with Cinema 4D. But what we're just working on right now is text. But if you've ever seen those 3D characters, kind of like how SLP does in his montages, you can also motion track and bring in a 3D model and do all the movements and whatnot. But that's a lot more advanced. I'm just gonna stick to text for this one. So now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna drop a text in here. So we're gonna go up to MoGraph and MoText. Let that load for a second. Nope, Cinema 4D doesn't want to work. There we go. There we go. Now the text is loaded. And now if you click on the text, you have this little text box right here, and you can just type in whatever you want. For me, I'm going to type in ToXinzZ Presents. And just click away. And now this really big black thing, yeah, that's the text. It's really, really, really big. So we're just going to drop the size of this text down. We're going to go over to the scale tool right here. Click like anywhere on the footage and just pull it down. Just keep pulling until your text is the size you want it. Maybe about there. And now we can click back on the move tool, arrows. Click back on the text again. And now we can change our depth. I usually use about 50 just to, That's disgusting. Alright, it depends on the size of your text. So let's go to 25. Nope, not even 25. Maybe. Actually, let's play with the depth a little bit later. Let's see what we're gonna do first. Let's change the font. So let's go down here to font. I'm gonna change up the font a little bit so it has like a bolder look for Cinema 4D. I have a few that I like to use, but let's see. What do I want? What do I want? The nice thing about Cinema 4D is it actually gives you a preview of the text. You don't have to click on it. You just guess what it looks like, and just like that would look kind of bad, but let's see what else is there. I think I'm just gonna go with a simple one that everybody should have, if I can find it. There you are, Arial. That one is a preset for all Windows, so everybody should have it. Why is it Metallica old? What? Sorry about that. Let's go back to Arial. There we go, Arial. Now I just have to change all these to capitals so it's bold. ToXinzZ present. There we go. And now we can, I'm going to move the text a little bit over here. Change the scale again. Just bring it down a little bit. Just so it all fits into the screen. I don't want to move it too much or else it'll look bad. ToXinzZ present. And let's move it back in the Z-axis a little bit. Move it over to the right a little bit more. Back a little bit. Over. Maybe right there. We'll move it back again. Scale it back up. This is all like trial and error till you get something that you kind of like. I think that looks alright. Let's just. This is your picture viewer. If you just click this, it'll render out a preview of what it's going to look like. Yeah, that looks alright. Just tweak it a little bit here and there. We're going to click on this little, these arrows that kind of look like a recycling symbol, whatever. Something like that. Click on those arrows. Make sure you clicked on the text. And we can rotate the text. So we'll rotate a little bit so it's a little bit flatter. Maybe rotate it to the back so it's kind of looking more at us. There we go. Rotate it down a little bit. See how that looks? Yeah, that looks fine. Now don't worry about these kind of being in the way and looking weird. That's going to be the next part in After Effects. I'm going to teach you how to make it look better and whatnot. But also, now, since we have the text on the ground, we're going to want shadows and lights and all that stuff. Now I do have a Lightroom, but I don't really like to use it. I kind of like to use my own lights. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a light in here. We're going to go back to the arrow keys. We're going to drag the light up so it's above the text, kind of like a sun. Drag it over, back, and you can. This is all up to you and your preferences and where you want the shadows. You just kind of got to think about it. Like if I have it up high here, the text is going to come down and it's going to kind of shine on the text like this, and the shadows are going to come in. They're going to darken the inside of the shadows here. The inside of the text here, and the shadows are going to kind of come like diagonally out this way. If I move the light over there, it'll do the opposite. It's just basic physics of the way that lights work and whatnot. But now that we have that, I think that looks alright. Let's just zoom out here. The zoom out button's right here. Zoom out a little bit. I think I'm going to put it a little bit higher and pull it back a little bit more. Alright. And then click on the light. Make sure you click on the light. Going to go to shadow. The shadow going to change from none to soft. Sorry, I still can't speak today. Change that to about 80% for the density. That looks pretty good. And now we're gonna scrub through this a little bit. Got to make sure the text doesn't move. Like every time you move the text around, rotate it, whatever, just kind of like pull this arrow along and just kind of give it a little bit of a look to make sure it doesn't move. Because if it moves, you're gonna have to play with it again. And if you wait until you render it to find out that it moves a lot and you can notice it, then that's just going to be a pain in the ass because Cinema 4D takes hours to render out, and if it moves when you figure out the render, then you're going to have to re-render the entire thing, and it's a huge pain in the fucking ass. Just terrible. Alright, So now to make the shadows show on the ground, because you see if I ran preview this real quick, see how there's no shadows like on the ground, but there should be shadows on the ground. Just doesn't look like the text really belongs. What we're going to do is we're going to come up to right here on this little cube, and we're going to go and click on, where is it, plane. And that's going to bring a plane into the environment. Nope, give it a second. It's going to be very slow. Apologies. Alright, so this is going to be our plane, so this is going to act like our floor. I'm going to drag it down so it's just the very bottom of the text. Might have to rotate a little. Like if you rotate your text or anything, you're going to have to make the floor match up to the rotation of the text. So just rotate it like that a little bit. Rotate it, ooh, a little bit too much. We move it down a little bit further. Kind of like that. Rotate it this way a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Rotate it forwards, not too much, not too little. Kind of like that. And if you rotate it back a little bit more. This is a very tedious process. You gotta kind of be perfect with it. The only reason I'm being perfect with it is because I'm actually doing this for a client. I'm gonna move the floor back a little bit, move it over. Then we can scale it down. There's these little orange arrows. You can kind of see them here, and the other one will be right here. You can just kind of can't really see that one. There we go. It's at the end. Scale it in like that. Just move the floor back to where it was. All right. We'll move it back down. Move it back a little bit so the shadows have something to cast onto. A little bit over, a little bit more. Alright, right there, that looks good. Now if I ran preview this out, you can see that there are going to be shadows on it. You see how the shadows are right there? That looks really good, looks nice, but obviously this plane is going to look terrible. So to fix that, we're going to drag this text onto the plane. Come on, there we go. Drag the texture onto the plane, and then we're going to left click on the texture. We're going to go to, oh no, don't left click on the texture, left click on the plane. Go to Cinema 4D tags, compositing tag, and then we're going to uncheck cast shadows. We're going to keep scene by camera checked, then we're going to check compositing background. Now what that's going to do is I'm going to render it here. And oh, one more thing I forgot to mention, my bad. Click on the texture. Click on the texture. Go from UVW mapping and make it frontal. And now if you ran preview it out, it blends into the map and you have the shadows on the ground where they should be. So now the text looks like it's sitting on the ground and casting a little bit of a shadow. I might have to fix the text right here because it doesn't really look like it's sitting on the ground right there because it's hovering a little bit above the plane, but that's an easy fix. It's really just like a trial and error type thing in Cinema 4D. And also, if I'm going too fast, feel free to pause the video and mess around with it and get it to what you like, because I'm kind of going fast because I've done this a lot. Let's see, just push this down a little bit. Have the text just slightly going into the ground. Rotate the text a little bit more. Yeah, just like that, and then bring it down tiny little bit. Okay. Now I wonder if, do I like that depth? Maybe I can go a little bit further with the depth. Maybe bring the depth up to 25. Yeah, that looks good. Let's go from, click on the text, go to caps. We're going to go to fillet cap, and it just kind of gives like a bolder, like bubblier look to the text. I kind of like it. We're going to go to radius. We're going to put that to like 1. And then we'll put the other radius to 1 as well. Yeah, I don't really like that. Maybe 0.5. 0.5 with the radius. This one will go 0.5 as well. That one looks a lot better. And now this is kind of preference here. You see how the text is kind of like here, let me just zoom in a little bit and see a little bit better. See how the text is concave right here? It rounds off the edges. Well, if you want to change that, you can change concave to linear, and then it's just like going to be a complete box with the text. You can change it to convex, which will kind of give it like a divot when it goes around the edge. You can change it to concave, and it rounds it out. Half circle, kind of. Oh, Cinema 40 is being slow. Alright, well. Half circle kind of does. I have no idea what half circle does, never used it, but one step is what I use a lot. And you see how that kind of gives it a little, like, engraved look to it? Because what I usually do is I'll have a background texture on it, usually black. Then I'll have a 4 texture on it for like the frontal. And it'll give it like a two-tone kind of texture, and it'll just have the front texture on here, and then the black texture on the back. It looks really good. I use it a lot, so I think I'm going to use one step for this. I'm going to zoom back out to normal. Make sure that everything is still linear. It's not moving around or anything. Yep. And run preview that. And it looks like it's sitting on the ground. Got the shadows going on, and it's looking good. Okay. Let's turn off the plane. Just like double click on the top circle here. That way it doesn't have that weird look to it. Just gets it out of the way. So now, once again, I'm going to leave all the textures and whatnot that I am using in the description in a RAR folder. But what we're going to do is we're going to click on File. We're going to go to Merge. Well, what we're going to excuse me. What we're going to do is, I don't really make my own textures in Cinema 4D because I don't really know how, but, well, I know how. It's really easy, but I don't know how to do complicated textures, so I just use preset textures for like complex ones. So I'm going to go find that folder. You should have it if you downloaded the RAR folder I have in the description. Motion tracks, 4D Lightrooms and models. And oh no, this is textures. That's what I want. Textures. All right, so you're gonna have a bunch of textures in this folder, and I'm just gonna use Final Pack. These are all packs I got off of YouTube, by the way, so I don't take credit for any of these. But what that's gonna do is you're gonna click on that, and it's gonna open this up. Now it'll give a cube. Just delete the cube. It really doesn't matter. Delete anything else that you didn't already put in here. So let's see what we can do here. Zoom in a little bit. Yeah, let's zoom in on the text a little bit. We'll center it. Now this is all preference, what you kind of want to look like. It'll all depend. Like if you're using a hardcore like rock song and that's what you're doing for an edit, you're gonna want like darker colors because you're gonna want a darker color correction. You want that to blend in. So this kind of you have to always think ahead. I'm using a kind of chilled rap song, and my color corrections just kind of probably be like warm, so it's not really going to be like a huge ridiculous color correction. So I'm just going to use, I think I'm going to use maybe like a darkish purple. Just drag the purple onto the text. And I'm going to put C1. If you're using one step and you just want it on the front of the text, just use C1, capital C and 1, and that'll just put it on the very front of the text. And then on the back, I'm going to use a kind of a shiny black. So let's see what I have here. See, just shiny black here. You can always check the reflections. Double clicking on the texture that you're using. Just double click on it. And in the reflection, you can always change it. Like this is only a reflection of 17, which isn't too bad. So let's see what that looks like. We can just RAM preview it. Yeah, you see how you got those reflections coming in from the ground and around the map, and that looks actually pretty good. Let me just scale everything back to the same scale as the map, and now we'll RAM preview it. Yeah, I actually kind of like that. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Alright. Now that we have that in our textures, for people that really want like an extremely reflective kind of text, and they don't want it like kind of dull, they really want to see like it shine and you can really see like the reflections in it, and I don't really do that a lot because I don't really like the look of it, but it all depends on what you're using and what colors. First thing you're going to want to make sure is that you have a really reflective texture. So I'm going to make like, oh, actually there's one right here. I'll just use this red. We'll put it on here. And this red is just going to be like an example. Make sure that this red has reflections to it. This kind of looks like a candy red. That's actually really nice. Make sure it has a lot of reflections. So like 25, that looks good with how it's set up. It's really bright too. So if I ran preview this, you see how it has doesn't really have ridiculous reflections to it, but you can see a little bit in here. If you want a lot of reflections, we're just going to go back to this cube and we're going to add a sphere. And now once the sphere loads in, let's see what my time's at. 1 second. 21 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry this is so long, guys. Alright, this sphere, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the scale tool and scale this down. And we're just going to scale it and move it over so it's right over top of our text. Just like that and like that. We're going to make sure that it's covering the entire text, so doesn't matter how big it is, as long as it covers the entire text. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back down and take our map texture. We're going to put the map texture on the sphere. And then we're going to change UVW mapping to spherical. And then we're going to left click on sphere again, Cinema 4D tags, compositing tag, and this time you're going to uncheck cast shadows, uncheck receive shadows, then check compositing background, and uncheck scene by camera. And now if we render that, you'll see how it has a lot more reflections on it, and it's really, really shiny now. It brings out the reflections a lot more, but also let me see what else we can do to bring out those reflections. We can go into edit, we can go to effect. Effect, come on. Global illumination, and what this does is it helps the lights. Record density down to low, samples low. Now we can run preview again. There you go. Now that looks really, really nice. But it does add render time, so that's completely up to you. I'm personally going to use it, but I'm not going to use the sphere because I don't really like the reflections, as I said. So I'm going to delete the sphere, and I also don't want this candy ass red. Delete that. So now that I'm pretty much done here. So I think that looks pretty good. I got the shadows, I got the colors that I like. Oh, also another thing I want to mention, use the exact same colors. If you're doing multiple motion tracks in one edit, use the same colors in the motion tracks. You want them to change, especially if they're in the same map, like you're doing an introducing, and it's like you're going through and you're like, whoever presents the name of the montage, and they're two different colors, don't change them. Alright, so let me go through the render settings with you. We aren't going to touch anything. Actually, no. Yeah, we are going to touch something in output. We're going to go to output. We're going to change current frame to all frames, and that does what it says. It'll render out the all frames. That's important. If you don't change that from current frame to all frame, it'll only render the very first frame. We're going to go to save. We're going to pick where we want to save it. So I want to save it to my desktop. And this is the first one, so I'm just going to put present. Save it there. We're going to change format to QuickTime Movie. And then this is very important. If you're using QuickTime Movie, you're going to go to options. I mean, like, this is extremely important. Options. You're going to change frame rate from 30, 59.94 format. 59.94. Sorry. It must match the frame rate of your original footage when you rendered it out of After Effects, or else the motion track will move. That's why I said in the very first part that is extremely important to remember that. So we're just going to check alpha channel, and what that does is it's only going to render the text and the plane, so it kind of speeds up render time, but it's not rendering out all the map, it's just rendering the text and the plane. Don't have to touch that. Anti-aliasing, we're going to go to best, 1x1, and 2x2. Option, not going to touch anything. That, not going to touch anything. A global illumination, sampling is going to be on low. The cache is going to also be on low, then that's it. Now this is completely up to you. This just adds render time and it makes the shadows look better. If you want, you can use ambient occlusion. I really usually don't because it extremely extends render time, like to maybe 12 hours. It does a lot. It's terrible, but it really does help your shadows. So if you're doing, if you want to make the motion track look really, really well, and you're taking your time on it, and you're not on a time limit, then I'd say use ambient occlusion, especially if you're using a lot of lights, and maybe if you're doing 3D model work, use ambient occlusion. It looks so good, but it adds so much render time. So if you have a good PC, I'd say go for it, definitely. Anyway, that's it for Cinema 4D. Now all we have to do is click and hold this button. We're gonna go down to Add to Render Queue. Yes, we're gonna want to save it. This is just an old motion track. Let me just delete that real quick. Oh, what happened? Delete the old motion track. Oops, I think I deleted the one that I. Okay, let me just add it back to the render queue. There we go. Now I have a second motion track that I have to do, and if you're following along with me, you're doing it too. But I'm not going to show you that one because I showed you everything in this one. You're just going to want to add the second one to render queue as well, and you're going to want to do. Actually, 1 second. If you want to work on the second motion track in the same one, you're just going to want to hit File, New, and what it's going to do is going to give you a completely fresh new start. We're going to go to File, Merge, then you're going to click. You're going to find where you saved your second. This is ToXinzZ Presents. You're going to find where you saved your second Cinema 4D, which is Enter the Cosmos, or whatever you saved it as. Hit OK. And once again, you have your entire, like, whatever it is, your entire motion track right there. But I don't need this, so window. Back to the first one. Back to my render queue down here, and you're just going to hit Jobs and Start Render, and that's all. Once it renders out, you'll have a QuickTime movie on your desktop, and then I'll show you how to import it back into After Effects and do all that. But I'm gonna let this render overnight, and I'll talk to you guys later. I'll see you soon. Peace.